Don in London. Hello. My video for March 14th, all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. And my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things, trying to be perfect and never so, and trying to fit in a very difficult world, just like everybody else. But what I used to make it possible in the end, or at least it seemed that way, was alcohol. So I always put a drink in between me and reality. I was very good at some things and very bad at other things. And I guess finding out who I was one of those things. So I didn't really know who I was by the end of my drinking, other than I was empty and in need of help. And the place where I got help, first of all, was family, community, medical people, professional people I thought could fix my problem. Little did I know that all it needed was a fellowship to help me find out who I am on a daily basis and learn how to live life and be a part of, to be included, to be able to love people, be loved back, and useful in whatever capacity we find usefulness. So the fellowship for me is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Never speak for anybody in AA, can only speak for myself and what is working for me. Every single person in the fellowship is unique, authentic, and shares what they will, where they choose. And I choose to share in an open forum simply because some people cannot get to meetings of AA, and at least this is part of what works for me. So what is AA? I'll share the AA preamble, which is at the beginning of every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And we all do that in our own way. And we're all unique and authentic, and we will find a path. But it's not the same path, it's our unique, authentic path of living sober. So we get together in a meeting, we share experience, strength and hope, the good, the bad, the ugly, you name it, we share about it. And the purpose is to get identification on how to keep sober another day, and how life may work well instead of continually feeling inadequate, less than, and unable to get a grip on reality. And actually I don't get a grip on reality these days. What I tend to do is get an understanding of what reality is today and how I may fit and make the best of what is, rather than be absolutely driven mad by what I think it ought to be today. So gently, each day learning how to live my life. So by the end of a day I know a little bit more about who I am, and it's very incremental. So hopefully, if I'm making the best use of my time, today is all that counts. And I'm very lucky. I've been sharing a lot about the AA literature and what helps me when I can't get to a meeting, and also literature which helps me when I'm in a meeting. One of the ones which helps me a lot is Daily Reflections, this book, and it covers the 12-step program, or the 12 steps to live life in the fellowship and outside in real life where it really counts. So consistently being able to behave as I can inside, outside, fellowship and in the world as it is. So 12 months, 12 steps. This book, Daily Reflections, covers one of the steps a month, and for March 14th it talks about the keystone. He is the Father and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. And in the meeting I was in today, there was much talk about religion. Some people have religion, some people don't have religion, but people have faith in what can happen if we are a part of, rather than absolutely fighting everything tooth and nail, or just feel left out. So how to be included is a great revelation to many of us as each day passes, how we can be included in family, community, work, and wherever we happen to be, whether it be in a bus queue or on the railway system or at work, how it all works. And people find their own place in life, as we find our own faith in life, and we may have particular religious views. But what I learned is, let go and let God actually meant let go and let the God of my understanding help me. So rather than try and solve all my problems, if I just opened up to what is possible, listening to other people, asking other people, letting in the good from the wisdom of others. And sometimes it's not wisdom, sometimes it just doesn't apply. So we can't take on the beliefs and faiths of other people. We develop our own faith on how life can be, and a faith in doing the next right thing. And that's letting in the good of life, letting in the wisdom from others. So, as it goes on to say, a keystone is the wedge-shaped piece at the highest part of an arch that locks the other pieces in place. The other pieces are steps 1, which was admitting I was powerless over alcohol and life had become unmanageable. Step 2, being restored to sanity by a higher power. Step 3 is let go and let God. And step 4 through to 12. And all the steps are important. So in one sense, this sounds like step 3 is the most important step, the keystone. Step in the most step that the other 11 depend on the third for support. In reality, however, step 3 is just one of 12. It is the keystone, but without 11 other stones to build the base and arms. Keystone or not, there will be no arch. Through daily working of all 12 steps, I find that triumphant arch waiting for me to pass through to another day of freedom. And what does that mean? Well, it can be very difficult to work out, and if I get hold of the 12 and 12, this book, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, I'm just doing this off the cuff, so I'm going by what I've just read, and how does it work in practice. So I find in step 12, there's a particular passage which sort of helps me make sense of how it all works in reality. Now, if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Page 110, step 12. AA's manner of making ready to receive this gift lies in the practice of the 12 steps in our program. So let's consider briefly what we have been trying to do up to this point. Step 1 showed us an amazing paradox. We found that we were totally unable to be rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. In step 2, we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, some higher power must necessarily do so if we were to survive. And for me, it can be good orderly drunks, gift of desperation, some people say, whatever it is, whatever your higher power is which works for you. And for me, it's letting go my self-will and my own opinion, and letting in the opinions of others. So if God works through people, I'm on the right track. Consequently, in step 3, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. For the time being, we who were atheist or agnostic discovered that our own group, or AA as a whole, would suffice as a higher power. Beginning with step 4, we commenced to search out the things in ourselves which had brought us to physical, moral and spiritual bankruptcy. We did a fearless moral inventory. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Looking at step 5, we decided that an inventory taken alone wouldn't be enough. We knew we had to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts, and in honesty confide these to God and another human being, which is, we share our assets, our liabilities, what made us angry, what made us resentful, what was our part in, all those things that really upset us and kept us drinking. At step 6, many of us balked, for the practical reason that we did not wish to have all our defects of character removed, because we still loved some of them too much, and they're often around what we call the 7 deadly sins. But for me, it was fear, putting on a brave face and not letting people in, and letting my ego be a defense mechanism, often just embellishing the truth, and it became a lie that I was okay when I wasn't. But if we let people in, it also means we've got action to do to actually change. And that's why many people balk. Keeping the defects of character can keep us behaving badly. Yet we knew we had to make a settlement with the fundamental principle of step 6, which meant we had to let go our defects of character and let the world in. So we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not yet relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. We said to ourselves, this I cannot do today, perhaps, but I can stop crying out, no, never. Then in step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings, such as He could or would, under the conditions of the day we asked. And this is it, under the conditions on the day we asked. So it's not forever. We have to keep on putting in the action, or we get nowhere. Yeah. In step 8, we continued our house cleaning, for we saw that we were not only in conflict with ourselves, but also with other people and situations in the world in which we lived. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed, and became willing to set things right. We followed this up in step 9 by making direct amends to those concerned, except when it would injure them or other people. By this time, at step 11, we had begun to get a basis for daily living, and we keenly realized that we would need to continue to take personal inventory. Sorry, step 10 that is. And that when we were in the wrong, we ought to admit it promptly. In step 11 we saw that if a higher power had restored us to sanity and had enabled us to live with some peace of mind in a sorely troubled world, then such a higher power was worth knowing better by as direct contact as possible. The persistent use of meditation and prayer, we found, did open the channel, so that where there had been a trickle, there now was a river, which led to sure power and safe guidance from God as we were increasingly better able to understand Him. And for me that was letting in the world, letting in the wisdom that is around us to help me with my life. And then it says, step 12, so practicing these steps we had a spiritual awakening about which finally there was no question. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change settling in. From great numbers of such experiences we would predict that the doubter who still claimed that he hadn't got the spiritual angle, and who still considered his well-loved AA group the higher power, would presently love God and call Him by name. But it's the God of your understanding and what it means to you. So in some ways it can be a very practical understanding of letting the world in, let go and let God come into our lives. God being the power of now, living in the now. The spiritual awakening is, every morning for me, to let the truth of life in and let the truth of me out. There's no conflict. It's about how we get our freedom of choices given the life experience we're having. And there was much discussion about feelings tonight in the meeting I went to. It was big, a very big meeting. And I think a lot of people were very pleased with what they heard, because we can feel every emotion. Every emotion has its place, as to whether we see it positive or negative. So yes, anger and resentment are the number one offenders when it comes to us going back and taking a drink if we feel thirsty and angry enough. But at the same time, a bit of anger and resentment, given the situation we are in, and then how to forgive ourselves for feeling that way, and forgive people who probably are doing the best they can, even though it may feel the worst for us. That's what's important. People do the best they can, but we're not here to change other people. We can only change our attitudes and how we approach life. And often we find the answer not from within, but from sharing it with another human being. So we get perspective. And I can remember in my early days being completely upset by the activities and actions of other people, only to realise I had a part in it. And the amend to self was I had my part in it, and I could do nothing to change the attitude and behaviour of some other people around me. So I have freedom of choice to choose what to do next, and often it's finding a new path, unique and authentic, which keeps me on a sober route, living life on life's terms. The spiritual connection always to reality, the power of now in the moment of now. And I often call it the imperfectly perfect moment of now, because it will never be perfect. In fact, it is imperfectly perfect. It's an oxymoron. We learn from it, we live and we love and we understand. All good. Anyway, that's me, March 14th for now. So to God or good, to the Serenity Prayer, to God or good conscience, or as you understand a higher power in your life, it's the can and cannot do which saves me from frustration of trying to run the show. So to God or good conscience, or whatever your higher power is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, people, places and things. Courage to change the things I can, me and my attitudes. And the wisdom to know the difference is always just for today, and especially in the moment when it frustrates me more than I could have known before. Goodness me, did I put her through the mill, and all my family. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or substance and behaviour. So my substance of addiction, alcohol, just like my dad. And yeah, it got him, and it took a long time to work out what it did to him, because ignorance is not bliss. And the same applies to me. I didn't really know what my malady was for a very, very long time. So addiction to something which is so easy to get hold of, like alcohol, well, where does the story start, and what's it like today? I could relate 35 years of drinking, highly successful a lot of the time during that period, but at the same time it was only success in the material outward looking sense, or in an ego way, maybe putting on a brave face, bravado, full of ego, which was very brittle because underneath was nothing much substantial. And these days learning courage, faith and confidence to meet each day as it is, face reality, without trying to fix myself. And you know, dreams when we're drinking are impossible because we cannot ever attain them. We're trying to fix something, and the problem is we always have to put in a lot of hard work to wherever we're going to get to. And hard work is not unpalatable. Hard work is good fun, because if we work hard, toil hard, and have a result, then what is life? It's being useful, and we have purpose. So for me, sobriety has taught me an awful lot about how to be a happy or sad human being as life affords, living on life's terms. And you know, sobriety is no guarantee of happiness. We still have to face the lumps that we all get, the rock bottoms of life. So recovery affords happiness when it's there, and sadness when it's there, and being able to face up to life on life's terms. So what's helped me along the way? I'm very lucky. Family, friends, community, professionals helps me to a moment of clarity, and then more moments of clarity on a daily basis about how to keep sober. So sobriety is what it's all about for me, and then life works as it may. What's helped me most is a fellowship, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I will stress again today, I don't speak for AA, never can, never will, never want to, and I'm not a spokesperson for anything but sobriety. So sober works for me, and I share about AA because it has been the backbone of my recovery, and I share about the AA preamble and the literature and the 12 steps of action for individuals to change attitude and behaviour to living life as it may be. So I make no apologies for that, and it's important. It's my message of experience, strength and hope, not anybody else's, and not representing anybody at all except where I am today. So with that said, I do share the AA preamble of the Statement of Intent, and it says this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I share, because it's important to me to share experience, strength and hope, that sober works, sober living works, and I don't need to fix myself on a daily basis with a drink or a drug or behaviour, because if it wasn't drink, it was work. If it wasn't work, it was relationships. If it wasn't relationships, it was the gym. If it wasn't the gym, it was materialism, which was driving me on and on and on, wanting to fix myself. And these days I don't want to. All I need is to be sober and to find a way to make life work, or live life so it works. So it's facing all the bumps in the happy road of destiny, as well as all the smooth parts as well. And what's underneath all of that? The ability to love life, love people, be able to be loved back and useful. So AA provides me with 12 steps to change my attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. And these 12 steps are about action always. They're not about learning it and having done it. It's about living it, living the principles of the steps in all that we do. So that is what I try to do, to the best of my ability. And March, being the third month, for me I'm covering step 3, and it can be an awkward one, and it was for me when I first got to the fellowship of AA, because any mention of God just sent me off in the other direction, or I had an inbuilt prejudice because my dad and everything that he seemed to stand for was all about being all-powerful, being in control and having power over the world. And what I've learned most is I'm powerless over alcohol, people, places, things. If I go back to drinking, I will go insane again, and it would be mad. So when I got to step 3, I understand the first 2, don't drink, don't go mad. And step 3 reads as, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And for me the idea of God was very, very difficult. But these days I've come to my own conclusion, as everybody does, what God is or isn't in their lives. And for me, God is truth, love, and works through others. So with that in mind, in this book, Daily Reflections for today, it says for March 14th, and this covers the 12 steps, 1 a month, which is really good. It's like a mental jogger, and we need reminding on a daily basis what is good for us, or we go off track very quickly. The keystone, he is the Father, that's God. Truth, love, works through people. And we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. The keystone is the wedge-shaped piece at the highest part of an arch that locks the other pieces in place. The other pieces are steps 1, 2, 4, 5 through to 12. In one sense, this sounds like step 3 is the most important step, that the other 11 depend on the third for support. In reality, however, step 3 is just one of 12. It is the keystone, but without 11 other stones to build the base and the arms, keystone or not, there will be no arch. Through daily working of all 12 steps, I find that triumphant arch waiting for me to pass through to another day of freedom. And for me, I'm sorry, I keep checking the clock today, I overran yesterday. Another day of freedom, freedom of choice. And it's not about having power over the world or other people, places, things. It's about me being able to make choices based on an attitude and behaviour of life to life, how it can be in just one day. So freedom of choice given life circumstances, life on life's terms. So God, let go and let God. Let the truth in. Let love in. Let other people's wisdom in to help us be informed about what we can and cannot do on a daily basis. And the can do, cannot do bit for me is embodied in the Serenity Prayer, which is always there for me to remind myself at any time of day about can do, can't do. And it's to God, all good conscience, as you choose and understand. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. That's the things I can change. And the wisdom to know the difference is, for me, just for today. Or behaviour. My substance of addiction was alcohol. My behaviour, a bit of an aholic in all departments. Workaholic, relationshipaholic, perfectionistaholic. All about one ism, really. That is the ism of life, being addicted to it, and no balance. So a person on it, the extreme, really, of either doing something or not doing something, and maybe nowhere in the middle, where life is a bit more balanced. So where am I today? Well, I'm still in recovery, one day at a time, and it's been a fascinating week of pain, emotional, spiritual and physical. I'm still going through regime changes to do with type 1 diabetes and clinical depression, which does have a great impact on how I'm doing. At the same time, I keep with the recovery, and the fellowship which keeps me able to do one day at a time is Alcoholics Anonymous. And every time I go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, this is the preamble that is shared. And this week, very tough. Anyway, here we go, the preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And yesterday I went to a very funny meeting of AA where the person doing the chair, well, they will remain anonymous, but it was funny and also sad. Much mention of my friend and sponsor who died last Monday, and you know, a lot of people knew this person and will sadly miss him, and so will I. You know, when we have a fellow in fellowship, we understand each other on a level which many people probably don't, and that's simply knowing the malady of addiction and being able to deal with it one day only, today. So for me, in my malady, I'm always trying to get things perfect, and I've done something to my computer, so I'm hoping this might work. It may not. But life is all right. The sun's just come through this morning, although rain is forecast. And I've been looking at the books to get some inspiration to do this video, as well as uninstalling and reinstalling all sorts of programs. And maybe I have made the classic mistake of doing things I don't think I know, doing things I think I know, and realising I don't know very much. Anyway, March, third month of the year, March 14th, and this book, Daily Reflections, gives me a daily reading, if you like to help me with my understanding of how to make life work just for today. But March is the third month, and there are 12 steps of action for people in the fellowship. 12 steps, third step, all about, if I can find a piece of paper, which I've hidden under something else. Yeah, third step, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And I have to look at it from time to time because my memory at the moment is shot to pieces. To do with clinical depression, it's just one of those things. Anyway, March 14th in this book, the keystone. And be careful of the way it's put. It's put in a way which can put some people off, so I'll try and explain how it works for me afterwards. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. That comes from AA's big book, page 62. And then it's a keystone is the wedge-shaped piece at the highest part of an arch that locks the other pieces into place. The other pieces are steps 1, 2 and 4 through 12. In one sense, this sounds like step 3 is the most important step, but the other 11 depend on the third for support. In reality, however, step 3 is just one of 12. It is the keystone, but without 11 other stones to build the base and the arms, keystone or not, there will be no arch. Through daily working of all 12 steps, I find that that triumphant arch waiting for me to pass through to another day of freedom. And the day of freedom really is freedom from drink, and also the obsessiveness or the selfishness, self-centeredness. You know, it's all about me, and actually it's not. It's about the world and where it is, and where is the balance in all these things. I'm going to pause for a moment. I even forgot to set my clock. I haven't overrun completely. So, that daily reading, where it talks about the keystone, step 3, and where it says for me, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. God for me is very simple. You've got to keep your own understanding of God always. It's your understanding which counts, not mine. And I don't know if it's an atheist, agnostic, secular type of God that I have, but it's the only one I understand so far. God is love, God is truth, God works through people. So it's very much in the here and now. And being in the here and now is so important simply because being in the now is the spiritual moment, where if we can cut off all those, or shut down all those filters, shut down the denials of I can't believe it, I don't want it this way, then life can be a lot sweeter, even if it's horrible, because we know what we're living through and we're not denying it. So this week has been tough. I've been careless. I've lost a good friend. I've lost a girlfriend. I've had memory lapses all week, and it's peculiar, and I don't like it, but I'm living with it. And I keep a sort of systematic pattern of going to meetings of AA, just so I keep connected to what is going on around me. Isolation will make me more and more miserable, so it's very important I get out there and be part of. And I'm making tea again today, which is a good thing, but I'm sad that the person who was doing it can't do it today. As Bill sees it, this book, another one, inspirational on a daily basis, and it says Seeing is Believing, page 47. The Wright brothers' almost childish faith that they could build a machine which would fly was the mainspring of their accomplishment. Without that, nothing could have happened. We agnostics and atheists were sticking to the idea that self-sufficiency would solve our problems. Well, actually, I don't think that's true. I don't think most agnostics or atheists think that self-sufficiency is the answer. I believe they would see it as a mutually supportive community, society and civilization. And it's not about, just because you're an agnostic or an atheist, it doesn't mean you want to be top dog. It's about being interdependent with what is going on around us. When others showed us that God's sufficiency worked with them, we began to feel like those who had insisted the rights would never fly. We were seeing another kind of flight, a spiritual liberation from this world, people who rose above their problems, and whether you're a believer, an agnostic or an atheist, I don't want to convert anybody into anything. My conversion, if you like, is knowing I'm not God. And I say that with a smile and a bit of a jesting part, if you like. But the seriousness of this is about interdependence, that we have a mutuality. We're not exclusive, and we can't control the whole show. I feel that is the most important message. And if I look at the summary again of what the step 3 says, where it says made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. It's your God you need to understand, or your understanding of God, or a higher power, and not knowing that you're not one. You're not it. So step 3 is like opening a locked door. How shall we let God into our lives? Willingness is the key. Dependence as a means to independence or interdependence. Dangers of self-sufficiency, turning our will over to a higher power, misuse of willpower, sustained and personal exertion necessary to conform to God's will, or just good conscience for me. And it's not just good conscience, it's the collective understanding of how to live life, and that's about living to the good of life rather than the bad or the sad. The trouble is, with serenity, that prayer, serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, that is, powerless over people, places and things, accept the things that I can change, that is, know my choices based on what is available in my immediate world, through, I guess, understanding and collaboration, then I start to make some sense of what is going on. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I'm powerless over people, places and things, but I have some choices. Courage to accept. God grant me the courage to accept the things I cannot change. The serenity. See, I'm losing it again. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Even if I have much pausing and amnesia at the moment, it's just the way life is for today.